ሰላም ጤና ይስጥልን ወደ ተማሪዎቻችን እንደምን አላችሁ? በያላችሁበት ሰላምታችን ይድረሳችሁ። ይህ ከስር የምታዩትኝ የግሎባል ትሬንድስ ሲሌበስ ኦር ኮርስ አውትላይን ነው። ኮርስ አውትላይኑ በሚኒስትሪ ኦፍ ሳይንስ ኤንድ ሃየር ኤጁኬሽን ካሪኩለም ሪቪዥን ላይ ባለፈው ዓመት ተዋቅሮ የመጣ ነው። ለየትኛውም የሃየር ኤጁኬሽንስ ኢንክሉዲንግ ኮሌጅ ኤንድ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ለመጀመሪያ ዓመት ተማሪዎች የሚሰጥ ነው ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ይህ የመጀመሪያው ቪዲዮአችን ቢሆንም ሰብስክራይብ ማድረግን አትርሱ። የናይል ግሎባል አካዳሚ ቤተሰብ ሁኑ፣ ተወዳጁ፣ ለሌሎችም አጋሩ። ጥሩ ትምህርቶችን ልናደርስ ነው ዝግጅት ጨርሰን በዚህ ኮርስ አውትላይን መጀመር ወደናል። ስለዚህ let's get started. This is as you can read here, this is a global trends course outline, so you can have or you can read the course descriptions and objectives below. Just to start from the course description, it says that it is basically designed to equip students with basics of international relations. So in this course, one thing that you are going to know more is about international relations, starting from its defining the term up to its evolution to the contemporary world. International relations ወይም ዓለም አቀፍ ግንኙነት ማለት ምንድን ነው? ቤዚክሊ ቬሪ ብሮድ ኮንሰፕት ነው። በጣም ሰፋ ያለ ኮንሰፕት ነው። ኢኮኖሚኩ ብዙ ማህበራዊ ዘርፎችን የፖለቲካውን ያው ሁሉ የሚይዝ ነው። እሱን ትረዳላችሁ ማለት ነው። It also says that it's vast in terms of this course is basically vast or multidisciplinary, you know, በጣም ሰፊ ዘርፈ ብዙ ቢሆንም but it gives you as a nice breaking course because it touches wide range of issues, concepts, theories, approaches and debates that are fundamental and necessary to have some understanding about. ለምሳሌ በዓለም አቀፍ ጉዳዮቹ ኦር ደግሞ በኢንተርናሽናል በዓለም አቀፍ ጉዳዮቹ የተለያዩ ዘርፈ ብዙ ብይታዎች አሉ፣ ብያኔዎች አሉ፣ ክርክሮች አሉ። እነሱ ክርክሮች ሁሉ የምታዩበት አንዱ መንገድ ነው ማለት ነው። For instance, among the concepts we can have national interest, ብሔራዊ ጥቅም, foreign policy, actors in international relation, globalization, balance of power, cold war, ምንድነው multipolar system ምንድነው, international law. These are the concepts that you guys can find here. The other most important point in this course is that you can have some interest about realism and liberalism. These are basically in our discipline basically known as mainstream theories in international relation, but still we do have multiple theories, especially after these two major theories. The theories that developed after realism and liberalism are basically either against or for these both realism and liberalism theory, so you can have some understanding about these theories too. This course is basically vast, you know, but it can be shaped በሚመቸን መልኩ መሰረት ሼፕ እናደርገዋለን። እዚህም ላይ 5 ቻፕተርስ አሉ። we can have 5 chapters here. The first chapter is it's an introductory part. It gives you some clarification on concepts like nation, state, international relation ምንድናቸው፣ ሀገር ምንድነው፣ ብሔር ምንድነው፣ ማህበረሰብ ምንድነው፣ ወይም ደግሞ ዓለም አቀፍ ግንኙነት ማለት በራሱ ምንድነው የሚለው። and at the same time it also gives you some clarification about levels of analysis and actors in international relation. በዓለም አቀፍ ግንኙነት ውስጥ ተዋናዮች እነማን ናቸው የሚለውን it will give you some picture. The second chapter is about foreign policy and diplomacy. No, foreign policy and diplomacy, you might have heard about these terms before this period or prior to this period. So foreign policy, there is always concepts like national interest, bargaining, diplomacy ይባላሉ። እነሱን በደንብ ታያላችሁ ማለት ነው። And within this chapter again you will have some knowledge about the Ethiopian foreign policy experience in different regions in Ethiopia. በተለያዩ መንግስታት ዘመን የነበሩ የፎሬን ፖሊሲ አፈጻጸሞችን እናያለን ማለት ነው። up until today እስካሁን ያሉትን የምንዳስበት ፓርት ነው ማለት ነው። The third chapter is about international political economy. This chapter will give you some very important concept about either how exactly politics or the political order are governing the economy in general, not only at domestic level but at international level, at global level. In this case we can mention the case of World Bank, IMF, something like that are basically considered as global or international organizations, and at the same time they are responsible for governing the economy in their own sphere, or the economy in their own role. So we can have some understanding about this point. The fourth chapter is about regionalization and globalization. These two concepts seem sometimes contradictory, አንዱ የሚጣረሱ ይመስላሉ። still there are debates whether they are really converging or diverging. Diverge ያደርጋሉ, converge it's very contested. But regionalization is about when states came together and associating themselves in terms of their geography or in terms of their common interest. Either it is for creating of market integration, we call it regionalization. Globalization by far is more broader than, obviously broader than regionalization. So you know, it's the interconnectedness among various actors on various issues ነው። እሱንም እናያለን ማለት ነው። Okay, the last chapter is about on contemporary global issues. Contemporary. Today, we all are familiar with contemporary global issues. So we can have terrorism, we can have global warming, we can have migration, we can have even COVID-19 like this pandemics እነሱን መጥቀስ እንችላለን. And their effects at the same time at international relation እነሱን እናያለን ማለት ነው. So again, to mention some of the core objectives here, after completing this course, you guys are expected to have some knowledge about these concepts: nationalism, state, and international relation, and actors, either they are state or non-state actors. ለነሱ knowledge ሊኖራቸው ይገባል ማለት ነው. So after learning about international relation, after learning about here, actors in international relation, you can have some understanding about analyzing the international relations in broader perspective. So you can also read some of the course objectives here. These are most important and valuable. Like for instance, point this here: national interest on foreign policy, diplomacy, that you will learn in chapter 2 are some of the course objectives. Okay, so the below section is about the chapters that I mentioned earlier. So the first chapter is understanding international relation. And in this part, you will learn about first conceptualizing terms or concepts like here, concepts like nationalism, nation, in the state. And after conceptualizing terms or having some understanding about the concepts, you are going to learn about international relation in general. Okay, starting from its nature and evolution, you will learn a lot. And the other point here is actors. Okay, we cannot imagine the international relation without having some sort of actors. There are obviously actors. Basically, they are classified as state actors, non-state actors, sub-state actors. You will learn about these points. The other is level of analysis in international relation. Here we are going to talk about the behaviors of the individual human being, the group, the state, and the system level in determining an international phenomena or issue, or how exactly they affect us for the happening of some international event. So we are going to talk about levels of analysis, and in this point it's all about how we are going to analyze an issue from the perspective of these levels. The other point here is theories of international relation. Basically, we can have different theories, but basically we do have liberalism and realism as major theories of international relation. But in addition, we can have Marxism, constructivism, and critical theories. Today we can have multiple theories like modernism, postmodernism, neorealism, neoliberalism, feminism, green theory, a lot to mention. But these are some of the major theories that you will learn in this course. Chapter 2 is about understanding foreign policy and diplomacy. Speaking of foreign policy, there is national interest. ናሽናል ኢንትረስት ብሔራዊ ጥቅም የምንለው ነው። ሀገራት የተለያዩ ብሔራዊ ጥቅም አላቸው። ያን ብሔራዊ ጥቅም አሳልፈው ላለመስጠት የሚጠቀሙት የውጭ ጉዳይ ፖሊሲ ነው። Of course, states they do have two policies: domestic and foreign policy. Okay, sometimes even foreign policy is also considered as the reflection of the domestic policy. Okay, domestic policy. So here, after defining the concepts and terms about foreign policy, diplomacy, and bargaining, and basically instruments of foreign policy, we are going to proceed to some of the experience of the Ethiopian foreign policy in different regions in Ethiopia. As you can read here, starting from Emperor Theodorus up until today, up until the current government, you will discuss or you will learn about the foreign policy experience of the Ethiopian governments in different periods, including the current government. So the third chapter is about international political economy. International political economy. As I mentioned earlier in the description, in the course description part, this international political economy is we can have two dimensions. There is a political dimension and the economic dimension. And their relation in terms of governance. Basically, the political part is the governing part that supervises the market or the economy in general. So we are going to discuss about this point, and having this in mind, here are some of the experience of the political economy of different states, like the American case, the Japanese, the German, and the differences among these all experiences will be also discussed in chapter 3. One most important point in this chapter is obviously we can have global issues today or international organizations like World Bank, IMF, something like that, and we are going to talk about, or we will discuss about their roles, especially in managing the economic dimension. These organizations are basically established by governments or states and considered as the dimensions of the political order, and at the same time they are responsible in running and supervising the economic activities at global level. And the last point in this chapter is exchange rate system. የምንዛሬ ነው። There are different type, basically two types of ምንዛሬዎች አሉ። Fixed and floating ምንላቸው ነው። So we'll talk about these issues. Chapter 4 is about globalization and regionalization. I have already mentioned this point, and we can have some different theories in globalization and regionalization and its impact in Africa or in Ethiopia, and the advantages and disadvantages or merits and demerits of globalization will also be discussed. And the same is true for regionalization. We can have theories or theoretical perspectives or views on or regionalization. Basically, we can have this old regionalism and the new regionalism, especially in defining the integration when status, closest status or intimate states, especially states with geographic proximity, they can create some form of integration. So we can have this old and new regionalization, and later we can have theories, theoretical views. The other most important point in this chapter is the relationship between these two concepts. Okay, the regionalization, which one is exactly influencing the other? Is it a regionalization or globalization? Either whether they are converging or diverging, we will discuss about. The last chapter is about major contemporary global issues. This is very most important part that I hope you guys have some understanding or knowledge about these global issues in general. We can mention the issue of security, environmental issues that I mentioned, like global warming, the socio-economic, like migration, ፍልሰት ምናምን, this global cultural issues today. The global society is becoming west oriented, Americanized የመሆን ነገር አለ. So we are going to talk about it. So this is about in general, just it seems that I'm going fast. በአጠቃላይ ይሄ ኮርስ አውትላይናችሁ ነው ማለት ነው። So teaching and learning methods, it will be basically through our channels, okay, either YouTube or Telegram channel. Basically I recommend you to subscribe our YouTube channel so that you can find courses or lessons as soon as we post. So as soon as we upload, ቶሎ ታገኙቻላችሁ ማለት ነው። Don't forget to subscribe our channels. Below you can find the further reading materials, okay. እነዚህን ማቴሪያሎች ተዛማጅ ጽሁፎች ናቸው። በእነሱ ዙሪያ ወይም ደግሞ you can ask me ከነዚህ መካከል የምትፈልጉት መጽሐፍ ሪከመንድ አድርጉኝ ወይም ደግሞ ጠይቁኝና I will put some of the books in the description box እዛ ላይ ወይም ቴሌግራም ላይ እንዳስቀምጥላችሁ ጠይቁኝ። ዞሮ እነዚህ መጽሐፍቶች እንድታነቧቸው ሪከመንድ ይደረጋሉ ማለት ነው። ኮርሱ ሲዘጋጅ ወይም ሞጁሉ ሲዘጋጅ አዘጋጆቹ የተጠቀሟቸው መጽሐፍቶች ወይም ተዛማጅ ጽሁፎች ናቸው ማለት ነው። So these are basically helpful ናቸው፣ እንድትጠቀሟቸው ሪከመንድ አደርጋለሁ። ኦኬ ሶ ከታች እንደምታዩት የቴሌግራም እና የዩቲዩብ ቻናል ሊንኮቻችን አሉ። እነሱን በመጠቀም ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ እና በመወዳጀት ላይክ፣ ኮሜንት፣ ጥያቄ በማቅረብ ሌሎችም ሼር በማድረግ ወዳጅነታችሁን አጋሩን። ለሌሎችም በማዳረስ ትምህርቶቻችን ለሌሎች እንዲደርሱ አድርጉልን። ለዛሬው ኮርስ አውትላይኑን ለማስተዋወቅ የሞከርኩበት ሂደት ይህን ይመስላልኝ። ይህ ናይል ግሎባል አካዳሚያ ዩቲዩብ ቻናል ነው። ቻናላችን ሰብስክራይብ አድርጉ፣ ተወዳጁን፣ ሌሎችም አጋሩ፣ ትምህርቶቻችንን ተከታተሉ። በእናንተ ሀሳብ መሰረት የተለያዩ ኮርሶችን እናካትታለን። ለዛሬው ይበቃናል። ለነበረን ቆይታ አመሰግናለሁ። መልካም ቆይታ። ሰላም በያላችሁበት።